Where are people missing it in terms of their philosophy of actually making money on social media?
I think the biggest trend is community.
Your community doesn't have to be large for you to be able to survive in a social media recession.
You could create a real business with under 500 if you're really tapping into your community. Now brands are looking at how they're spending their dollars, and they have a much easier time working with people with a smaller following who have a very loyal community that listens to them and believes them and doesn't see them as this kind of like sellout celebrity kind of thing. So the celebrities are not getting their big brand deals anymore because those dollars are being spent on, micro and nano influencers.
And define a micro and nano influencer.
Well, I don't think anybody, for whatever reason, wants to be called an influencer anymore. It has like this really negative connotation. But basically, if you've got more than 100 people that are following you and interacting, right, and they're real people, then you've got some influence. And that means that brands are looking at you like, okay, does this person have a good relationship with the people who are communicating with them? Is there trust there? And they would much rather do, hundreds of nano influencer deals versus one big mega influencer deal where that person's hard to work with. Their rates are ridiculous. You can't tell if they've bought half their followers. The engagement isn't real. So they would much rather work with these people who are more authentic.
Yeah, that's really good news. We talk a lot for small YouTube creators or smaller channels or across the platforms. Micro and nano influencers are where brands want to invest their dollars. And the influencer marketing industry, the last numbers we were looking at was close to 20 billion and growing about 20% a year. That's just that vertical. There's so many different ways to make money. Just that one vertical is massive money flowing into the system. So that's actually a good news, dead trend that the money is going to everyday creators.
Well, I think it's important to talk about the fact that we're in a social media recession, and there is an inordinate number of people who are just now producing content. Your mom, your cousin, like everyone has multiple accounts. They're creating content. Everyone wants to be get podcast deals or sponsorship or become a nano influencer. So there's an unbelievable supply. And statistically speaking, people want to consume less. We don't want to spend as much time on social, so we want to follow less. So it's just like a recession in the economy when there's, people don't have enough money, i.e. time, and there's a huge supply. Then what you're going to see is people are very choosy about how they're spending, and they're spending their time on the very few creators who actually deliver, right? So because of that, if you know that, and just think about your own human nature, how many people do you follow and look at all of their content? Very few, right? And you probably follow thousands of people, at least hundreds, and maybe you look at between 5 and 8 of them per day. So how do you become one of those 5 or 8? You do that by understanding human nature. If you're getting fewer likes, less engagement, fewer followers, you're not doing something wrong. We just have so much supply. So how do you combat that? What's the trend? The trend is to be innovative, to adapt, to not follow the trends, to notice what you're not interested in anymore on social and stop producing that. Like, even though everyone's producing the same kind of thing and you're like, this is so boring or dumb, then don't do that, Even though it seems like it's popular, it's not, it's dying. By the time you're sick of it, it's dying. So innovate, be creative. I think the biggest trend is community. We were just talking about music, right? Like when people, back in the day, you buy an album, you listen to every single song over and over and over again. Now you hear someone, dropped a new album and you listen to the hit and then you move on.
And that's it.
Yeah. Unless you're like, that's your dude, right? Like Drake just dropped a new album. I'm going to listen to every single song, and memorize the words because you belong there, right? Like, so I think creating community in our social is so underrated.
That's huge. I know that our mutual friend, Pat Flynn, who's also one of the instructors in the Marketing Impact Academy, wrote a book called Superfans.
Loved it.
Superfans is the edge. And what's kind of funny is thinking about dead trends or new trends. Community, you could call it a new trend, but there's a book called Raving Fans.
Oh, yeah.
That's maybe 20, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Raving fans is the essence of any real business.
Yes.
If you can actually make deeper connections, and then your community doesn't have to be large for you to be able to survive in a social media recession.
That's right.
If you have 1,000 true fans, then anything's possible, and you could weather any storm.
And less than 1,000 today. I think if they were to republish that book, it'd be less than 1,000. I think you could create a real business with under 500 if you're really tapping into your community, right? And I think that's what a lot of people miss because they're focused on getting that viral video. And when you focus on going viral, what happens is you follow a trend and you get all these people to follow you or at least see your content, and they don't follow you because the rest of your content doesn't deliver that same thing, that niche. It doesn't provide value that's entertaining on that same particular topic. People are very topic focused. We have a problem that we need to solve, and that's why I'm following you. That's why I subscribe to your YouTube channel. That's why I continually watch your content.
I want to talk about how to actually monetize on social. A lot of creators are focusing on the wrong things.
Yes.
Now, we're also only going to be able to cover so much, and we're going to co-host a free class, and that's at idea2income.tips if you want to register, entirely free. You're really doing the heavy lifting. You've got a whole presentation, and I remember, I love your trainings. You've done many for our community. You spoke at Vid Summit a while back, crushed that session, and so you just pack it so full of value. So I just want to make sure that's on people's radar. Idea2income.tips if you want to register for that free training. When it comes to most people focusing on social media and trying to make money, everybody thinks they need 1 million followers. They need to go viral. They are hoping that Reels Meta pays them, even though they just pulled that away.
Yeah.
They're hoping to get monetized on YouTube, even though unless you're massive, it kind of just pays pennies. So it's not very practical. Yeah. And so where are people missing it in terms of their philosophy of actually making money on social media?
You know, and that's why I'm doing this workshop, because we want this to be super simple, and it's not. There are levels to it. It's not just what you're seeing. Like, we see someone who's got a large YouTube following, a large Instagram following, getting a lot of likes, and we just assume that's how they're making money. But it's not, right? And so it's teaching people how much they're leaving on the table, number one. So how to set up a foundation so that if you do get approached by somebody who wants to offer you a brand deal or a paid post, do you already know how to position yourself? Do you already know how to disclose or pitch your rates? Do you already have, if someone is looking at your viral video, or we call it viral for me, right? So if you have a video that goes viral for you, meaning it gets 50% more views than what you get on a normal piece of content. Like, so that's a really good piece of content for you. What do you do with those people when they look at it? How do you, they may never come back. So how do you capture them? It's understanding like the things you have to set up, like an email list, understanding retargeting, understanding how you can, once you've got someone's attention, it's the most valuable thing you could have. Don't let them just walk out the door, right? So I like to teach people what do those basics look like, because they're not that hard, but no one talks about it. It's all gate kept, you know? And maybe it's not gate kept. Maybe just people find it boring. But if you don't do it, you're not going to make money. I mean, the chances are of you making a business out of your social media is pretty sketch.
Yes. And a sustainable business as well, because for a lot of people, content creators, quote unquote influencers, or even entrepreneurs that dip their toes in the social media game, it's kind of feast or famine or 15 minutes of fame. A lot of people are here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's interesting as one of the reasons why you're such a mentor to me is because you have stood the test of time and continue to reinvent yourself. You've weathered every economic, the highs and the lows, because you've built a real business. So speaking of monetization, and you're talking about some of these steps, one of the biggest steps that was kind of funny, because I had been trying to grow on social media from 2007 was when I first started a YouTube channel for my church. That's super early days. 2010, Think Media starts. I had my video production channel, and I had my personal channel where I was doing a lot of random, mainly on YouTube, vlogs, cooking videos, movie reviews, all this random stuff. And so now I'm doing my best to absorb learnings and education from people. But for 2010 to 2015, made a little money with ranking videos and affiliate marketing. But then I discovered your podcast, Build Your Tribe. And then eventually I joined your program, the Marketing Impact Academy. Then became a professor. And then became a professor in the Marketing Impact Academy. But one of the things that multiple episodes on Build Your Tribe just started to revolutionize my thinking was you started saying you need to build an email list. Also not super sexy. Wasn't like, like, let's go. I'm pumped. Like, let's, because I want to go make a video, or I want to go vlog with my wife and our dogs down in Laguna Beach at the time, and kind of go do fun stuff. But there's also these practical things, and that changed everything. And even today, brand new stats, 2023 came out about how email marketing is the most effective way to get your to actually reach people when algorithms are so fickle. Why do you encourage people to build an email list?
It's crazy that is still the thing. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I thought that would be the case 10 years later, I would say I'm not sure. But like yesterday, I met with some, big YouTubers. They started a podcast like 9 years ago. And 2 years ago, they started doing a YouTube channel, right? And they're like, that's when we realized like we've got to build our email list. And he said 2 things happened. First of all, people found them on YouTube, their podcast. And then secondly, they started to truly monetize because they focused on their email list. And recently they were just approached by a major player, Spotify, reached out to them to acquire them for a deal that is a pretty hefty 8 figures.
Wow.
To go exclusive on Spotify. And they declined Spotify was like, what?
Yeah.
Hello? Do you know who we are? But they just say that because you don't see that. You don't see an email list. I mean, I don't talk about my email list, but I'm building it every single day in social. Every story, not every story, but every day I'm doing something on stories that's intentionally working to reach that person who's like, I want more. I'm not here for the haircut. I want to learn more. I want to go deeper. And I want to be able to serve those people. And then it's really knowing how to deliver an email that people are going to open.
There's many challenges, but what do you see as the opportunity ahead for leaning into?
It's big. It's awesome because what is another trend that's just dead is the perfection stuff. Like, oh my God, especially as a woman, so annoying, so triggering, so like, I want to throw up at some of the stuff that you felt like you had to post before, right? And how perfect your house had to be a certain aesthetic and your kids had to match it. Like, none of it made any sense to me. And, I have to be like a bro standing in front of my Rolls Royce. Like, none of that stuff works. And so, pretty privilege, all that stuff goes by the wayside. People want real. And that is awesome because it's so much easier to remember, like to keep track of who you are if you're just who you are, as opposed to putting on this like social media persona and pretending and editing. And it's getting a backlash. People don't